Last week when Rocky Erickson and I were in Glasgow with Eva Kor, a young lady came up to me and said, "Bill, I used to work at Master Lube." Her name is Misty Cool, and she was on her way to New York to be hosted by Inc. magazine at the Women's Summit.
Yes.
Clearly things have happened since you worked at Master Lube. There's something in you that brings things out of people. You make a phone call or you send an email, people respond to you. There's something in you that connects at a deeper level with people. I don't think that's common, Misty. I think that's common. Not sure where it comes from.
One of the things that I feel people are missing in life is just to be heard. And so to be able to provide that for somebody, I'm a good listener. And to just, that small act of service that you can do for people is just listen to their story and then share mine. And people can tell me, they feel like maybe they're telling me their worst thing. And I'm like, oh no, you're a rookie. Let me tell you how I failed at that big time. And then what I did to fix it or to get out of it, or, here's what changed my life. Just to be able to share those stories and use my experiences to help other people. Up until this point in my life, around 2011, my internal dialogue was, you're a terrible person. No one's going to love you. You don't deserve what you have. You don't they don't really like you. That's what I told myself all the time. And I used to imagine that if I got a scrape or tore open my skin, it would just be black. That's how I felt on the inside. And I decided to change that narrative and tell myself the truth. And the truth was, I'm not terrible. I am lovable. I'm smart. I have a lot of great training. The truth is, yes, those things happened, but I can't stay there. Gotta move on. And once I started changing the way I talk to myself, my life changed completely. Just to be able to, and it's rooted in honesty, because I can't go around going, hey, Misty Cool, you are the most amazing person in the world. That's delusional and totally not okay. But just to be able to say, for example, this morning and meeting you guys, they're interested in you. Show up, see where it goes. You're not stupid. They're not going to find out that you're whatever, because I used to tend to go, oh, well, they think I'm great, but wait until they find out about that thing. And like I was talking about this morning, I'm not going to let my past change how I'm going to rock and roll my future, because if I did, I wouldn't go anywhere. And I want people to know that they can do the same thing. It's not about it. You could have gone through anything. Imagine the most terrible thing ever, and you can still work toward a future that you want. I'm living proof of that. I didn't go to Harvard. I did not grow up with money, sort of the opposite of that. I've made lots and lots of mistakes. I've been in terrible situations that have happened to me or I caused myself, and so there has been no lucky charm. There has been no leg up in the world, and here I am. And I might fail. I say all the time, I'm either going to be an amazing success or an amazing failure. And you know what? Either way, it's a great story. And I'm not stopping. My entire life, my ups and downs, there's been a lot of crazy. There have been many, many moments that, if I let them, could bring great shame to my life. But my mom and my sister have always believed in me. They've always believed in me. When I do something that I'm surprised, they're like, we're not surprised. When I called them and said, I'm doing this iconic thing for Bill Simmons, they're like, oh, sure you are. I mean, they just believe in me so much. It's amazing to have that kind of support. No matter how dire our circumstances, no matter how heartbreaking life was, we could still laugh. And I feel like that instills confidence in you, because you're looking on the outside and you're observing your outside, which is tumultuous and scary and unfair and hurtful. but you can still find joy in it by laughing, making a joke out of it. I came home one day and I went, "Hey, Ceedie," and she went, "Oh no, you call me mom. My friends call me by my first name. You are not my friend. I am your mom." She definitely put me in my place. She's tiny. My mom's like 4'11" or 5 feet tall, and she might as well be 7 feet tall. No matter what circumstance we were in, she could laugh. She laughed. She laughed all the time. She sang in the morning silly songs. And one of the things that I love that she instilled in my sister and I is our senses of humor, because she's that spirit of joy, finding joy in the most ridiculous circumstances. We had a time in our lives where we couldn't afford to buy toilet paper, and she sent us to a neighbor's literally to borrow toilet paper and a new roll, please, hopefully. But those are devastating times when you think about it, and yet I don't ever remember feeling hopeless or desperate, and I think it's because she could joke about it, but then I know that she cried at night, and just that strength is something that I admire, and I will always admire. I will never know, no matter how things have been bad in my life, I will never ever know what that must have been like for her. I'll never know that. I didn't spend most of my childhood on the reservation. I sort of had a foot in both worlds, if that makes sense. But in my observations from being there and loving people there, I think that reservations, especially like mine on Fort Belknap, need economic solutions that are sustainable, that empower people, that give them skills for a lifetime, that honor them and their families. And we aren't in the position of having a casino that everyone's going to flock to. No one's driving to the middle of nowhere, Montana, to gamble. I mean, it's just reality. And reservations like Fort Belknap, and I can think of some reservations in Nevada, Florida, all over the country, desperately need to find economic solutions that are, I guess in recycling they say, a closed loop. It needs to be a closed loop. It's inclusive and can help these communities be sustainable. Did I face discrimination going to high school in Billings? Yes, I did. It was the late 80s, early 90s, and some of my nicknames in high school were Spear Chucker. People would tell me not to eat their dogs, which still makes no sense. There is I don't know if this perception still exists, but there used to be a perception that Native Americans got these huge checks at the end of every year, and we spent it on cars and I don't know. And so, especially in history classes, when we would go over the colonialism part and the United States treatment of Native Americans, it inevitably came up during class from my classmates that we Indians got these huge checks. And I hate to disappoint people out there, but mine has always been around $18 a year, my treaty check. So that's not going very far. But I think one of the things that I know to my core is those kids that's not what their heart really is. And so I'm not angry at all. I am not bitter about it, because I've even been able to talk to a couple of those people as adults who said, we just didn't know. We didn't know the struggle. We didn't know, really have a clear sense of the history, didn't have all the facts, because that's really what racism is based in, is not knowing the facts. And so what I love about that experience is that, there are people I know that look back on it and are really sorry. I mean, they really regret that they said those things to me and they treated me that way. And I do wish, though, that I had advocated for myself better, because I would laugh along, and that makes me a conspirator in that experience. And so I have to take responsibility for that too. I don't remember why I applied at Master Lube. I thought it would be cool to change oil. And my stepdad wouldn't let us drive our cars unless we knew how to change our oil. And so I thought, well, it's gonna be cool to work at a place that changes oil. So I applied and got the job. And I remember I got to work at all the different stores, which was kind of put you in the elite of the cashiers if you could work at all of the stores. And I worked so hard. It is hard work working at Master Lube. A car comes in, back then, no computers, you wrote down their order and then got cracking on vacuuming, doing the windows, and there are customers who literally, you missed a spot. And I don't remember what car it was. I think it's a Buick LeSabre, old model, where the back windshield is really curvy, and those were so hard to clean from the inside. I remember that. And it was a really fun experience. Also, one of the things I loved about the culture at Master Lube was the humor. Lots of laughter. And I say to this day, I will not work with people who don't have a sense of humor. I won't. Because you're going to have down times, you're going to have high times, and if you can just laugh the whole way through, it makes everything better. And I want to work with people like that. And smart people are funny. You cannot be smart and not be funny, because funny people think quickly. They can observe a situation in an instant and make an observation about it that people laugh about. That takes intelligence. So I want to work with smart and funny people. Bill and the team at Master Lube paid for my books for my first semester of college. And I remember thinking, wow. And I love that Master Lube saw my value. That was important to me. That was really important to me. And I don't remember how I got that started. I think I remember telling somebody I'm going to school, and another cashier at Master Lube said, well, ask Bill if he'll pay for your books. And back then you literally had to call Bill and ask him. And I don't know where I got the courage to do that, and Bill's like, swing by the office and pick up your check, which I think was like $78. Inflation has kicked the heck out of that. But thank you, Bill. I will admit, college took a few starts and stops, but that was a foot in the door that I'll never forget. I'll never, ever forget. Nobody thought I would go to college. Nobody, that wasn't an expectation. I did not grow up with, you're going to college. That's the next logical step after you graduate from high school. That never happened to me. That wasn't an expectation. So to be able to go and be able to, I didn't realize the significance of it at the time, but to be able to go and present myself in the world in a way that was unexpected and unconventional is amazing. And you helped me do that. And by the way, I graduated with honors, which is amazing that I pulled that off. But I love learning, and I loved college. So, but what was really cool is, even though I chose human services, I feel like it kind of chose me. It's rooted in counseling, therapy, social issues. Think social worker. I think that's sort of a more relatable title that other colleges have. But my last couple of years of college, I worked as a mental health worker at Deaconess Medical Center in the psych unit. And one day, I was working in the youth unit, and this guy walks in, and he's a probation officer, and he was visiting one of the children in the unit. And I said, do you need an intern? And he was like, I do. And he handed me a card. And so I started interning for Tom Ramirez. And then when I was graduating from college, a probation officer was leaving. Right over here, Yellowstone County Courthouse, and I got the job. I became a probation officer right after school. So something I want to say about that, though, is I knew I was never going to retire as a PO. I knew it. I just knew it. I don't know how I knew that, but even back then, you went to college, you got a job, you worked at it for 30 years, and then you retired. And I'm not saying it was a good feeling. I just knew I wasn't going to retire doing one thing. I just knew that. And so I am so grateful for those experiences. I'm really grateful. I've been able to do a lot of cool things in Indian country and in criminal justice that I otherwise never would have been able to do. And so I'm really, really grateful, but I always knew I was going to move on to something else. My interest in outdoor adventure started ever since I was a kid. You know, growing up in Montana, we were always outside. And I've always loved hiking, exploring. Being outside is one of the only times that my mind is really quiet, and so I just have always loved being outside, but it got kicked up a notch when I was living in Albuquerque the second time, and I started going to this church called City on a Hill, and I met a great group of people, and a couple of the guys were volunteer whitewater rafting guides for the Air Force. And I said, how do I do that? And one of them remembered, and the next time they were having a training, he sent me an email link. And so the outdoor recreation on Kirtland Air Force Base has a whitewater rafting program that's staffed. The guides are volunteers, and it's very robust, amazing equipment, amazing training, and I did that in 2009. It's brutal because it was snowing when we started at the end of March, and so we would drive up to the Rio Grande in snow, and I'd look out the windows of the bus and go, I'm crazy. I'm not coming back next weekend. But I kept doing it. I kept coming back. And so I was a volunteer for several years, and I got to work at REI. Amazing experience there. I got amazing experience, and the people at REI are wonderful. One of the core values at REI is authenticity, and they live that out. So you get to work with all these people who are rock climbers and runners and amazing campers and hikers, and you couldn't swing a stick without knowing somebody who knew the Grand Canyon inside and out, or the San Juan Mountains. I loved that experience. And then when in 2015, the outdoor programmer at Kirtland Air Force Base quit, and he asked me to stop by, and I thought, oh no, I'm in trouble. And he said, I think you should apply for my job. And I went, no, that's what? Why? And I loved REI, but again, I knew I wasn't going to do that for the rest of my life, so I decided, well, I'm going to give that a shot, because you have to learn, you have to plan for a lot of people. You're in charge of their safety. You have to train. I got to train competent, strong, talented people. Like, I got to train them. That is such an honor when you get to be in that kind of position, and I knew I wanted to take advantage of that. And then there's the procurement side for the federal government, which teaches you lots of patience. And it was an amazing experience. There were several times I almost quit. And I remember telling my husband, this was about when I knew I wanted to start my own company. And I told my husband, I said, running my own business is not going to be easier than this, so I need to stick it out. And I'm so glad I did.
As a whitewater rafting guide, I wanted a dry suit. They can be expensive, so when a used women's version wasn't available, I ended up with a men's medium on clearance, even though I looked like a flying squirrel. At that moment, I realized, wouldn't it be great if there was an online community where women could buy and sell outdoor gear and help other women be more involved in outdoor adventure? So I did something about it.
I'm founding a startup called Girlzilla, and it's where we are going to help women access outdoor adventure. We're going to change the way women access outdoor adventure by providing an e-commerce platform where members can create a profile and buy and sell used outdoor gear and clothing and footwear to each other. And one of the things that makes it really neat is that they have the functionality to message each other. And so we are monetizing it by collecting a small commission on the sold price of each item, but what we're really excited about is the creation of community. And by that I mean, for example, I'm selling climbing shoes, and somebody who's never climbed before went to unnamed outdoor retailer and found out they can't afford those shoes. They're really expensive, and is kind of like really disappointed that they can't climb because they can't buy the shoes, or maybe were treated. The process was intimidating because when you're talking to an expert, sometimes, you know, they're using words you don't understand, and what's a crampon? I mean, some people don't even know, like to me is basic information, but that's not the same for everybody. And so, you know, back to the climbing shoes, I'm selling them. A woman wants to start climbing. She gets to ask me all kinds of questions, and it's what a great opportunity to share knowledge from women who have experience in, you know, many areas of outdoor adventure with women who have always wanted to try something, but they feel like it's impossible. There are a lot of people who feel like that. They think going for a hike, which only requires shoes and clothes if you don't want to get arrested, but it is impossible. It's like this amazing feat. I've done things and people go, wow, you're so amazing after a trail run. And I'm like, let me tell you the truth about this. Nobody runs the whole time. You just need some shoes and love to be outside. That's it. I want to show it to a lot of women. I want to show it to millions of women and help them get outside. That's what we're going to do for Girlzilla. I went to the Inc. magazine's Women's Summit. Hi, John. And it was amazing. It changed my life. It really did. The opening speaker was Barbara Corcoran, and then the rest of the day was filled with women who are vibrant, humble. There was a founder who was really honest about a time in her company where they had to lay off people, and I was just blown away by her willingness to be vulnerable and transparent to help other people. It was amazing. But one of the common themes throughout the conference was that women, and I can attest to this, we tend to downplay our value. And so, you know, sometimes when I talk about Girlzilla, I'll go, oh, it's just, you know, my little company, this is what we're trying to do. But instead, I'm like, no, this is what we're going to do. We are going to change the way women access outdoor adventure. And that shift is really fun because it makes you feel taller and you stand straighter, and you are basically telling people that you're changing the world. And if you are authentic about it and intentional about it and honest, people are going to believe you, and then you have to do it, right? So I loved going there because it was so encouraging and it was awesome that with a group of women, we all got to experience that together, to see other women go, yeah, I'm valuable, and my ideas are valuable, and my business is valuable. I'm going for it. This is what I'm gonna do. That was so cool to watch. Kind of my approach to life is, if I give in to everything that scares me, I literally wouldn't leave my house. I wouldn't leave my bed. And that's no way to live, son. So I just have to make decisions. The Bible calls it moving from strength to strength. And I literally have to make myself go, all right, that is scary. I'm scared of that. But if you wanna rock it, that's what you have to do. You gotta hustle. 10 years from now, I am going to be speaking to people and encouraging them to pursue their purpose in life. I am going to have built an amazing company that helps and loves people and transforms lives. And I hope that I am helping Native American communities develop economic solutions that we talked about earlier. And I'm going to be older.